Isn't that crazy? Kelly Ripa said, her eyes wide as she leaned closer to the microphone. Mark Consuelos chuckled beside her, shaking his head as if still not quite believing the story they were about to share. It began the summer they bought the old house on the north shore of Long Island, a sprawling colonial built in the 1920s, with creaky floorboards, ivy-draped columns, and more fireplaces than bedrooms. The kind of place that looked like it had a story to tell, even when it was completely silent. We wanted something quiet, Kelly said. A place we could sneak away to, write, read, let the kids chase fireflies. But we didn't realize we were moving in with someone else. From the very first night, something was off. It wasn't sinister, not at all. In fact, that's what made it so strange. The house had a warm, lived-in feel, despite having sat empty for over 2 years. We thought maybe it was just our imagination, Mark said. You know, old house noises. Pipes, wind, whatever. But then the little things started happening. The first sign was the piano. Neither Kelly nor Mark played, but the previous owners had left behind a beautiful, slightly out of tune upright in the parlor room. One night, as they sat reading, a single note played, clear, bright, and deliberate. Not a chord, not a mishap of vibrations. Just one key, middle C. Kelly froze. Did you hear that? She whispered. Mark had, and he'd heard it again, 2 nights later, around the same time. Every time they investigated, nothing was amiss. No open windows, no small animals, no practical jokes. Then came the perfume. It smelled like gardenias, Kelly said. Not in a bad way. Just sudden, like someone had walked past me in the hallway. I turned around, and no one was there. It was always in the same spot, just outside the guest bedroom, near the old grandfather clock that hadn't worked in decades. Mark claimed he never smelled it, but the daughter Lola did. And one night, she came downstairs wide-eyed and pale. There's a woman upstairs, she said flatly. She's wearing a green dress. Kelly and Mark ran up, half in panic, half in disbelief. Of course, there was no one there. But on the nightstand in that guest room, they found something neither of them had seen before, a single, white gardenia. Okay, Kelly said, laughing nervously on the show. Now tell me that isn't crazy. The hauntings, or visits, as they came to call them, never escalated. The ghost was always polite, predictable, almost maternal. Lights would flicker only when someone was telling a story. Fireplaces would mysteriously light themselves on especially cold nights. And once, when Kelly caught a nasty flu and was bedridden for 3 days, she swore someone gently tucked the blanket around her feet at night. It was like she didn't want us to leave, Kelly said. They began calling her Margaret, for no reason other than it felt right. In some weird way, it brought the family closer, gave them a secret, a presence that made their weekend home feel even more like an escape. Of course, they didn't tell many people. Who would believe them? Hollywood types with a haunted mansion, it sounded like the setup for a B-movie. But there were guests, friends, cousins, even a hairdresser once, who left in a rush, muttering things like, I don't know, that place just gives me the willies. One summer, they invited a medium to visit, just to see if they could learn more. She walked through the house and immediately stopped by the piano, Mark recalled. Didn't touch it, just stared at it for a while. Then she said, she loved to play this. Music was her way of speaking. According to the medium, Margaret had once lived in the house, back when it was newly built. She'd been a music teacher, unmarried, with no children of her own. But she adored the neighborhood children, often inviting them in for cocoa and stories after school. She died peacefully in her sleep, one winter night in 1953. No scandal, no violence, just stillness. The medium claimed Margaret stayed because the house made her happy. And now, seeing another family laughing, living, filling the rooms with joy, it was all she'd ever wanted. It honestly made me tear up, Kelly said. Like, she's not haunting us, she's watching over us. Over the years, the visits became less frequent. As if Margaret had grown content with their presence, or maybe tired. But every so often, something odd would happen. A cold breeze on a windless night. The smell of gardenias before a storm. A soft, Unmistakable note from the piano during a family dinner. I think she just wants to be remembered, Kelly said. And hey, now she's got her moment on live television. Mark grinned. She's probably watching this right now. The story was met with a mix of fascination and skepticism. Social media buzzed with theories, some spooky, some sweet. Fans suggested everything from EMF readings to amateur seances. But the couple didn't want to push their luck. She's harmless, Kelly said. Maybe even helpful. Honestly, it's one of the most comforting parts of that house. They never tried to cleanse the space or bring in ghost hunters. Why would they? In a world that moved too fast, filled with noise and distraction, there was something oddly grounding about a ghost who just wanted company. I like to think we're all just passing through, Kelly mused. Some of us stay longer than others. Margaret found her peace, and somehow, she helped us find ours. As they wrapped up the segment on live, the studio lights shifted slightly, just a flicker. Barely noticeable, but enough that Kelly blinked. Did anyone else see that? She asked with a grin. Mark just laughed. Margaret says hi.